Cock-a-doodle-doo.
All right, here we are, folks, with another episode of our lovely Country Boys podcast. And you'll happen to notice that one of us is not a boy at all, but an awesome enthogenic Seraphim. Let's see if we can get that right again. 3entheogenic Seraphim, the Princess of Cubensis. And we have our good buddy Andrew Johnson as usual. And Miss Seraphim, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, full of abundance. It's so nice to meet you, Andrew, and to finally get to talk to you again, Matt.
Yeah, we've been talking of late. I haven't known you for very long, but long enough to rope you into being on this here podcast. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So you do genetics, and I've seen you on multiple platforms. I've seen you on Discord, and I've seen you on Instagram. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do there with genetics and what your mission is with helping folks there?
Sure. So I offer genetics, just genetics, lots of different strains. Everything that I share is something that I have personally grown out. So I've isolated it. I've made it. It's where I want it, where I want to share it, contamination resistant, all the things that I can possibly do to offer the best product to customers. But my mission going into this wasn't to make money, and it still isn't. It was to send people care packages that make them feel loved, because you have to be really patient with mushrooms. It takes a couple of months to, to see the fruits of your labor. So my goal was going into this to send somebody something that would make them feel loved and feel a little hope, and just before, while they're waiting and being patient, to
Right.
see the bounty.
Keep the motivation going.
Like, I am loved, I am special, I am cared for. The stranger sent me all these little like things and toys and charms and
Right.
They love me. I am worth loving. So yeah, that's kind of what I do, and how I got here is a whole nother story. But yeah.
Excellent. So with your motivating folks to keep in, do you find that does pretty well for you? You see a lot of people coming back and having personal conversations and just being excited about what you're doing?
Yeah, the love and the support has been just overwhelmingly kind and positive. And some of the notes I see that people put on orders, like with a second order, will say like, "You got me growing. I tried for years. I wasn't successful." Because I also have an educational Discord to teach people how to use the genetics. So yeah.
Yeah, I find that definitely helps a lot. That if you get too involved in the commercialization of a business instead of the education or helping folks out, just talking to them, that it really tends to slow things down for you. So that motto of helping people is very significant in not just getting your idea out there, getting able to help people, but also in keeping that business alive and prominent in people's lives out there. So, Mr.
Yes,
Andrew,
definitely.
you haven't met Seraphim. Why don't you start us off with some questions you might have, since you don't know anything about her business?
Well, in the genetics game, I do gourmets myself. Like I play with those a lot. And there's always like, I guess, the question of ethics when it comes to genetics, because they're passed around so much, So how do you like kind of balance that between, these came from somewhere else and I want to make them my own? Like, how do you kind of come up with a personal balance for that? Because everybody has to have their own, kind of code for that, and everyone's different. So,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there are things I want to share, like Enigma and Gandalf, but there are things that were originally stated by the person who cultivated and isolated them that they aren't for money. So I offer them for free with purchase. As for strains that are isolated by somebody, I won't. So a lot of, and I don't, this isn't an accusation as much as I just know this happens. A lot of people would just go, spore or liquid culture to agar, isolate it on agar, and then share it. I'm growing it, I'm isolating it, I'm taking my favorite isolation of it, And then I feel like at that point, I feel comfortable giving the lineage on it and, calling it my own. But until I've done that, I'm not gonna take something from somebody else and just like put it on the shelf.
That makes sense. And I really respect the fact that you fruit everything as well, because there's a lot of people out there that just kind of, they'll take an agar puck, cut it, make 100 transfers, and then get it back out without ever having grown it. And it's kind of a, I don't want to say a crapshoot, but it's a little bit of a mystery. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little dangerous.
Right. Copy and paste can end in disaster sometimes.
Yeah, it can. I recently had somebody contact me and send me a picture of their Jack Frost. It wasn't genetics they received from me, and they were penis envy, but they were so impressed and excited about their Jack Frost and how they had been able to finally get it in just a spore syringe. And I was just like, yeah, those don't actually drop spores. No, not going to get a spore syringe. Those aren't Jack Frost. The person was really adamant they were, though, so we just left it at that. Like, okay, well, those are beautiful.
Yeah,
if you don't grow it, you're not going to know what it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I've come across things like that as well. I think folks will often grow something out and they'll say, "Hey, this is albino. It looks like this other thing. I'm going to go ahead and print it. We're going to call it whatever we want to and send it out there." And often, that can be a reversion, or it could be some random trait that came out and they just got spores from it. It's not an isolate. It's not stabilized. There's no reason to expect that genetic trait to repeat itself, and you get this random crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, I find that happens a lot with the Starry Night isolation. Ape Starry Night. People will get it once, and then they will send it out and call it, oh, this is Starry Night. But nobody I know that's grown any of those specimens has gotten a full flush of Starry Night. I've been working on isolating that one for a year. It's been a Discord project. So I actually do think that we are very close. I'm on my last grow of it. And then we're going to be sharing that with the world. But all the proceeds are going to go to our Discord moderators. But yeah, that's a good one for that example. Just because you see it in your grow does not mean that you're going to be able to, that does not mean it's isolated.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of genetics vendors, they will go and have a fruit that expresses a certain trait, and they'll really emphasize that trait. They'll let that fruit grow to the point where it's bluing heavily, really good, and they'll pull it and even let it oxidize a little bit for the photo. But that's one fruit. That doesn't necessarily represent a whole tub. And I think that's what I've always seen with that Starry Night myself, is that you don't really see like full canopies of these really beautiful fruits. And so, I, like you, I've never really actually gotten the right one. I've gotten some pretty cool looking things, but, most of the ones that I had that looked like that were like semi-aborted, and that's why they were so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And honestly, for me, I started out doing it with vapor, and then I moved to doing it with ape, and I've had better success with ape doing it. But this is something I've been working on for a year, and I'm still not there. You have to, you're putting so much work into that.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people don't want to commit to that work. And I'm not judging, whatever works for you. As long as you're sharing love, you do you.
Right. Yeah, and that's generally
what
what people are here for. They're not here to make a ton of money and go pay all these mortgages on it. No, they want to be here and gain some popularity, talk to some people, feel like they're a part of the community. And so it's kind of one of those things where you're like, hey, you really need to slow down and focus on what you're doing here and make sure you're doing things right. Don't just put this stuff out there. But dude, it's awesome that you're doing this, because you are a part of the community. You're helping everybody out. And it's kind of like we've discussed. You got to help people in the way that helps them, and that's not always what's written in the book or in the tech, so to speak.
It's true.
So let's talk about a little bit of your background with how you got into mycology. Like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? And you talked to me about using a microscope as well. So obviously, you've got some background there. Is it all self taught? Did you have education to help you? What do you got there?
No, so the brief history of me before mushrooms, because I feel like it's just as important. I have no scientific background whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I was raised in the Christian church. I mean, my father was a preacher. I mean, speaking in tongues, the whole nine yards. And my education was in theology. So when I was young in Christian school, I remember a story where we were being told that there was this place in New York City, and it was a museum, but it was the devil's trap because it was a place where they lured kids in to try to teach them about Darwinism, about evolution, when evolution, that whole theory was, an abomination to God. So I went to New York City earlier this year, and I was walking through the Museum of Natural History, and I had this moment. I was like, oh my God, the place they were talking about in New York was the Museum of Natural History. That is how heavily discouraged I was from pursuing any science growing up. I worked in the mortgage industry for 23 years, and so I did okay, but I really struggled with mental health, um, and I managed. It was fine, but what really took a toll on me was I had a brain injury, and that was in 2016. I had to kind of learn to talk again. Um, I was taking medications for seizures. I was having these horrible grand mal seizures. It was really uncontrolled, and so it took me a year to recover from that and go back into the mortgage industry. I got married, and then immediately after, so this is like 2.5 weeks before my wedding, very big wedding, my best friend in the entire world um, committed suicide, really unexpectedly. The day she did it, she was supposed to be out of town visiting me for my bridal shower, but we had to postpone it so a family member could come. Um, and I just remember driving back, learning about her death on social media. That was like horrendous. And then going to her funeral and driving back all night so I could make it to my bridal shower. And talking to the makeup people that do your makeup when you're having a big wedding, and just like feeling like I wanted to die. And I turned to alcohol. I had never been a big drinker in my lifetime, but over the next 2 years, I mean, taking my life was the only thing I could think about, and I wasn't being a wife. I wasn't being a mother. My daughter was about 16 at this point. She really needed me, and uh, last year, so I was already at this point kind of like curious about mushrooms. I wanted to not drink anymore. I was really, really curious. So I was dabbling, growing, but not eating them, not taking them. And my daughter almost died. So she's 21 now. She had a sudden onset of failure, kidney failure and liver failure. And we don't know what caused it. Something autoimmune. She was in the hospital for a month. It was touch or go. I remember leaving the hospital on the 4th of July with my husband, and him driving straight to a dispensary. We're in Michigan. That's not something we normally do, just because we were just so wrecked, not knowing if she would be with us the next day.
Right.
And then there was talk of if she needed a liver transplant, and me realizing and understanding I would not be able to donate part of my liver to my daughter because I'm an alcoholic.
Oh yeah. Kind of
So
eye-opening, I imagine.
yeah, it was. And so I was like, that's it. My whole life I've been told psychedelics are evil. They make your brain go crazy. They're, all the things that you get told being, I was born in 79. So all the things you get told being raised in the 80s and the early 90s about how they fry your mind. But it was worth it. I was at the end of my rope thinking I couldn't save my daughter if she needed it. I'm an alcoholic. So I went to Roatan, Honduras. And I had my first heroic trip. I had 7 grams of Tyco.
Wow.
And it was the day the queen died. And I like to say that 2 queens died that day.
Interesting. So was that your first psychedelic experience, or what?
So since I had been growing them, I had been taking microdoses, but I
Hmm.
hadn't gone over half a gram. So I mean, I went full in. I mean, there's no better and more beautiful place on earth than Roatan, Honduras. It's got like 360 ocean views,
Right.
tropical paradise, and yeah, I dove in. But my first realization coming out, well, my first thought was, how am I going to go like snorkeling and diving tomorrow and act like all of this is like
Right.
matters, you know? How am I going to like that? The idea as I was coming out of that trip, like I'm going to have to reintegrate. Like it just, I didn't think I would believe it. I didn't think I would be able to make myself believe it again, you know, to be
Right.
normal. Of course, that's not true. You do. The earth kind of sucks you back in right
Yeah.
away. But my second thought was, if I had known about this medicine, my friend would still be alive. So my life's mission is to share it with as many people as I can. And here we are today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very noble, but also, honestly, I think that's what a lot of us are here for, and a lot of why we stick around because, at one point in time or another, we were on the edge, and whether or not, addiction or ourselves were going to end our lives, something was there. And whether or not it's the actual mushroom itself or it's the growing of it, the community, the feeling of acceptance, it's hard to say what exactly does it, but definitely that's what brings us all together. And I think that that's how you and I met, and we struck it off pretty quickly as friends and got you here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to hear all that from you. Thank you very much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
it didn't look like it was super easy, but you pulled it off great.
No, it's been trying, but honestly, the mushrooms have guided me the whole way. Everything about this business from the ground up has come to me from the mushrooms. Um, Everything about it, how we do it, the free genetics program, the ability to donate so other people can receive genetics, because science has proven that the act of charity is healing for us. So if I give $5 to somebody on the street because they need it, that's healing for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of this it's one big trip.
Yeah, initially when I started out, I actually kind of felt bad. People would say, "Oh, thank you for helping me with this and that," and I had to tell them, "Well, really, I'm here so that you can help me. You think that I'm helping you, and in so doing, that's all I'm after. But the reality is that I get that same dopamine rush or whatever it is that occurs when you help somebody." To make myself feel better, because really we're all in the same boat. We're all not feeling the best these days, and it really helps to have that boost.
It does. It does. I love that you said that. The way you said that was so eloquent. It's like you pulled that from my mind, except I wouldn't have said it as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I must have had the right amount of lion's mane today.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I didn't take mine, so I better take it later.
How
Yeah,
about
I
you,
forgot
Andrew?
as well. I
Yeah.
forgot my lion's mane as well.
Isn't that
Oh
funny
yeah.
how that works? Like, yeah, if I just took my lion's mane, I would remember to take my lion's mane.
It's just kind of a loop.
Yeah.
Hmm. I
So
like to take that every day. It's good.
have you grown any gourmets, or have you strictly gone with actives, or what's going on
Um,
there?
I grow a little bit of everything, but I find that my gourmet grows, and I'm sad to say this, they don't do as well. Like they don't contaminate. They're big, bountiful. Give us extra water, mommy. And I just don't have the time. Like I've already got too many children.
Right.
I have a block of pink oyster that just gorgeous flesh, and it's starting to dry out. I picked half of it and I left it there. I'm like, I should really donate this to somebody, like send this to somebody. Yeah, so yes and no. I feel like I have a hair. Like, there we go. There we
Nope,
go.
found it. That's okay. We didn't see it. It just saw you feeling it. Yeah, I've grown a few gourmets myself, but Andrew here, he's the gourmet master, the and head of shenanigans today.
Yeah, I focus a lot on gourmets and like foraging and bringing genetics in from the outside as well.
Yeah,
That's
we've had a couple projects together where when we first met, where we pulled some wild Georges, and I got to do some isolating and
Oh wow. So
pretty
what's the
pretty
most
fun.
exotic you found?
what's the most exciting thing I found?
Mm.
Well, we haven't confirmed it. It still has to be sent off for ITS, but supposedly we have a sample of psilocybe atlantis.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so maybe that'll be kind of tossed back into the ring, but I want to, get the test done, confirm anything before I even really announce it.
Yeah.
Because, if I come out and say, hey, I've got this, and then it turns out to be just a mutated version of whatever,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody tried growing
So
some Azzies out there.
I
oh
wouldn't be
my goodness.
surprised, dude. Atlanta is crazy.
Yeah. So what
Uh,
is the psilocybe atlantis for folks that don't know?
well, it's another one of those that's kind of, we think it's a different species, but it's kind of localized to the Atlanta area, sort of like, is it Tampanensis that's Gallandoy?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it's
I
supposed to be.
remember. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like
so.
Gallandoy has that localized Atlanta variation. Wiley Eye as well is kind of localized around here and in Mexico. Um, so it is another, I believe it is a truffle maker as well. I didn't dig up the truffles, but it's in the same, like, not the same clade, but it's in the same grouping with Tampanensis and Mexicana.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, let me know when you confirm that. I'll have to share
Yeah,
that with
hoping
everybody.
hoping it comes back good.
So are the
Did you send
fruits
that to
on that?
iNaturalist? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
good.
I just wondered if you sent it off like to iNaturalist or somebody for testing.
I sent it off to the Ohio Mushroom DNA Lab.
Awesome. That's even
The
better.
people that do the Myco Blitz and all of the like new identification stuff, nanopore
Okay.
testing.
Well, I hope it comes back for you.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be pretty cool. So is
That is
that
cool.
one a more potent variety too? Like, is there any experience with that, or is it kind of
Mm,
along the same lines?
most of those truffle makers are a little bit weaker comparative to like your Cubensis even, or and then you've got your wood lovers, which are way stronger. So if anything, I would say they're probably going to be weaker. It's just interesting. I like these localized variations that we get because eventually they're probably not going to be known by that name. They're going to be known by whatever they're reclassified as. Stuff's changing every day.
It's a weird time in terms of like that, like things being renamed, uh, genetics. Like I'm receiving some specimens that just have the wildest names, and like what is a zoo creature? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I think naming the mushrooms in terms of like just like isolations, naming them and keeping part of the original name is really important. I wish that people would do that so we could really hold on to lineage.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a fellow on here, Taylor Yates. He actually wrote a book on taxonomy of the Cubensis, but it really, by the time he had finished it and published it, there was 20 more. And now, it's been like 2 or 3 years later, there's hundreds, and how do you really even start going through them? Because pretty much every Tom, Dick, and Harry has gone through and come up with their own isolation and come up with some weird net name. Hell, they've even taken regular old golden teachers or Mazatopek and renamed them something that they want.
I've got something. What is the best strain name either of you have heard? I'll tell you the let's just say craziest strain name you've heard.
I don't want to
Yeah.
go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be my own probably because I'm kind of a wackadoodle and I haven't released any of mine. But originally, I had wanted to kind of take the shift into Spaceballs instead of Star Wars. You know, kind of like let's make fun of the other kids kind of thing. And so one of mine was what the hell was it? It was a Melmac Revert crossed with like a Melmac 180 or something. So you know, it was one of those ones where they had a isolation with a large amount. Anyway, it grows these great big, just giant fruits. They look actually a lot like boletes, like a king bolete. Just this great
Yeah.
big, giant dome-shaped thing with little pock marks in it. And so I thought it would be a good idea to call it Moon Rock. But of
That's
course,
amazing.
we were thinking of names in terms of Spaceballs and making fun of penis envy, so we called it Mooncock. But nobody understood, nobody got it. They didn't get the reference, so we just cut that one out.
I feel you. I'll tell y'all
Good
mine.
naming.
A man looked me dead in the eye over video chat and said, I have a strain called Stupid Fruity Barney Swag. And I said, oh. And that's all I had to say.
SFBS? SFBS? Is that what it is?
I did not know how to respond. I was genuinely a bit dumbfounded.
Did you ask if he was potentially a pot grower, a former pot grower? Because that kind of sounds like a pot strain name.
He was.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered. All right, your turn.
All right. So, gosh, so was the question the dumbest, weirdest, or like most off-putting? Like, what are we isolating here?
Just one that like sticks out to you the most. That you were just kind of like, all right.
Okay. So, and this is one that a friend shares, so it's not like it's awesome. We're saying just names. I received one from Mycocat Genetics. Mycocat's awesome. Poltergeist. And for me personally, when I'm tripping, I don't really want to communicate with any poltergeists. So that one to me was like, but take creative license. You get
Right.
to name your own. I have my own golden teacher isolation that I've really worked on called Golden Preacher. Named it after somebody in the Discord family. But like I want to think of like the love, the good things, the like
Yeah.
I just personally don't want like a demon
Right.
talking to me when I'm
I
high.
can understand that.
Well, I think he's got quite a few along that line too. Demos, the moons of Jupiter. Was it
Mars.
Jupiter? Mars? Is it Mars? Yeah, because it is.
Yeah.
Because it was a Mars isolate. Yeah, I was wondering if maybe that was a ghost isolate. Why they call it poltergeist? Because they.
That would make sense.
Hard to say.
That does make a little sense. I haven't so I haven't grown it. I just have a swab of it. So I can't say yet. I have so many swabs that like I don't even know what they are yet because I haven't researched them. They're just like like XYZ or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I need to. What did I see? I saw somebody that had like a. It looked like a notebook with little clear dividers in it, and they were able to put all their spore swabs or their little spore prints in it and thumb through them and look through them. Mine are just sitting there in an empty ammo can, just loose.
I'll have to show you mine sometime. Well, I would say it's about a third of my collection, but I have this like briefcase style trapper keeper thing that zips up, and they are all alphabetized, and they're in there by exotic, what I've grown so far this year, which prints are my favorite, and what I still want to grow this year.
Yeah. Hey, there's $1 million idea for you. A spore Rolodex.
Oh my gosh. So I actually did an album. I don't know if that's actually how I went viral when I started this, was a spore print album. It's a video on my Instagram.
Oh, cool.
It's like a photo album, but with spore prints, and it has a place to document where you got the genetics, the name of the strain, your notes on the strain. And I included spore prints with it. Like they had a little place. I stopped making them. I got really bored with making them, like pretty much right away.
Right.
But yeah, the video was fun though. My husband helped me shoot it in the backyard, and he was so embarrassed. He was like, "I didn't know I was married to an influencer," and I was like, "No, no, no, it's not. You just," I was like, "You have to see the idea. Once we get going, you're gonna get it. It's like it's supposed to be funny." So it's like me like holding this album and you don't see what it is, and I'm twirling with it in front of the lake behind my house, and I'm on my stomach in my rainbow mushroom and flower garden, like like thumbing through it, and then I'm inside and I'm wearing a purple Halloween costume and holding a solo cup, and I'm like sharing my drink with it, and then I'm like tucking it in, and then I'm clutching it in my sleep, and then you start seeing me thumb through the pages, and oh, Memories by Barbara Streisand is playing. This is the
There you
video,
go.
and you see it's spore prints. So like that video, I don't know, it was supposed to be hilarious. It went viral, and that was how this all kind of went.
You're like, I better do something.
Yeah, I remember crying over packages that weekend. Nothing was automated yet. I got 200 orders. It was just me. Like,
Using
oh my God.
messengers.
Yeah, like manually typing addresses in. Like nothing. I had the website set up, but like it wasn't like set to be like a big e-commerce. I do about 120 orders a week now, and it's no big deal. But 200 in one weekend was a lot, and I did.
Yeah.
I cried. There are people who have my DNA on their packages because I cried.
Yes, you can say you sealed their envelopes with your tears.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, what kind of genetics do you focus on? Do you have a particular shape, design, or variety that you emphasize more than any other, or you just kind of collect them all like the Pokemon?
I like to offer a full offering. So my particular favorites are land races.
There you go.
I mean, I love them. I don't need them to do anything special for me in terms of like, be cuter. Sometimes they get the little golf cap. I do love that. I won't lie. I love a good golf cap on a on a land race, but they just do what they do. So me, like, it's fun to grow albinos, but what I eat are land races.
Interesting. And do you notice a difference with that in your microdosing?
Yeah, so I personally feel like when you're eating like a landrace specimen, like a Mazatec or um, Golden Teacher, Golden Halo. Oh my God, especially Golden Halo. That one's like wow. Um, it just feels ancient. It feels like there's this ancient mystical energy, and sometimes it even feels like with Golden Halo in particular, it for me felt like a little too much. Like I was being told, so you're not quite here yet, you know.
Interesting.
So yeah.
And so, like with your own microdosing, do you stick to one variety or do you mix it up? What's your thoughts on that?
So I used to have a schedule. My schedule always changes kind of based on where I'm at. When I was trying to stop drinking, it was heroic trip, and then like I was doing 500 milligrams or half a gram a day, 5 days on, 2 days off, which is kind of a lot. But it got me to. I stopped drinking. I can't even drink alcohol now. I don't even want it. I don't like. I can sit it in the fridge, and there's just like I don't want it. It's awesome. But after that, I kind of started spacing it out a little more because I didn't want to have serotonin syndrome. Currently, though, I'm on a very low microdose. I do change them out. I was taking Orissa India, which is a very potent Cubensis strain, Golden Mammoth, and one that people don't know a lot about and don't take and should is Hanoi. Hanoi is inspirational. Have either of you tried that one?
I have not. No, I forget what the one I had was, but it was another land race from Asia. I can't remember what it was called though. But what do you
There's
find
so
that's
many.
different with that one?
With which one? Oh,
With the
Hanoi. So
Hanoi?
to me,
Yeah.
with like Mammoth, for me, you could just get that golden, full feeling of love and peace. Like you feel the universe of the love. Hanoi, for me, is really unique because inspiration. Like you need ideas. It is. So and this isn't like I'm not. This is. I have a book on my heart. It's called Tripping Without Falling. I've been working on it when I have time. But the entire outline for this book came to me on a Hanoi trip, It was when I knew I wanted to write, and this was before I, fell into this, but it was, it's from the perspective of a professional person who takes psychedelics just to get by day to day, because I really want to normalize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hanoi, it will just like take your mind over and do the writing for you. Got writer's block, can't paint, take some Hanoi.
Interesting. I'll have to try it out when I'm lacking creativity. I was always particular to Burma, but I think that's really just because where I started and where I had my original success with growing and microdosing. So it was kind of a overpowering, fast, get you where you wanted to go kind of thing. But I was focused on all heroic back then. Really the microdose thing for me. It did work, but I found that I use cannabis so much that it really kind of throws it off. Like people who smoke weed, smoke cannabis, they change what they're smoking pretty constantly, and so you have this different effect on you all the time. And the psilocybin microdosing seems to emphasize that. So you can
Yeah.
have, a little bit of an anxiety weed, and then it will be a lot of anxiety because you just took your microdose that day, and you just don't realize that what's happening isn't that you're really anxious. It's just that you've mixed two things that are giving you this feeling, and it's harder to overcome. It's much like when you heroic dose with mushrooms. That you're revealing things about yourself. It's kind of the same thing with the microdosing and the weed. That it's messing you up, but it doesn't matter because you feel anxious anyway. You can't fix it.
Yeah. My microdose schedule has gotten like I don't even use one microdose a week at this point. And if I do, it's like point two, so like 20 milligrams, 0.02. Because I've kind of advanced in my journey as a psychonaut, and in that journey, my tolerance to mushrooms has gone way down.
Yeah, I've seen that with a few people recently for one reason or another. Folks that use DMT often will say that mushrooms work much more potently for them, so they have to be careful. So, any of
I
those
wish I had
things,
that warning.
yeah, yeah. I just learned it recently, fortunately,
Oh
before
my
I
goodness.
dove in. So, how
Yes,
about you,
yes.
Mr. Andrew? You microdose these days, or what's your process?
No, I can't really these days. Being in Georgia, I've got to, be safe. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of like-minded people around here. If I was in a state that was a little more tolerant, I probably would. But I still have lion's mane. I still got, my reishi, my turkey tail. I've got all the other ones that are kind of helping me along there. So while I can't do that here, unfortunately, I do have some fungal help.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, hey, that stuff's
Good.
just as good or better than psilocybin by itself, in my opinion. I think psilocybin is
Yeah.
definitely a very powerful tool, but it's kind of it's kind of a one-dimensional tool, in my opinion. I mean, there is multiple facets to it, but really, I've kind of backed into the thought that it reveals what's within us. So in that manner, it's one-dimensional, and you can really only treat yourself that way. But we really don't even know. But these gourmets or these edible medicinals, they've been proven to do some really, really killer things in our body. In particular, I'm really fascinated with their memory enhancement for my part. But for like my dad, who's 72, for him keeping some of his memory while he goes into potential senility, that's a big thing for him because as folks get older and you start forgetting things, your confidence wanes and you change who you are. So definitely very cool things, and I think we combine them with psilocybin, we might have a heck of an arsenal.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I wish that so my father, well, he's my stepfather, he struggles with dementia, early dementia. I tried to, so that was actually the reason I grew lion's mane, was because I wanted to share that. And my mother kind of, and it's funny, we laugh about it now, but she was like, we don't want any of your illegal mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but mom, I'm like, no, but it's food. It's like food. It's like not. And she's like,
Right.
no. He says no, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, my dad's the same way. Like I would like for him to have that stuff, but he will not take it unless I can pretty much supersede his doctor and tell him it'll be all right, you know.
Yeah, but at least he's taking the lion's mane, right? You said.
Yeah, he won't take it yet. I'm still working
Oh,
on it. I will probably
well.
have to sneak it into his food, you know. Put it in the steak. I'll bread up some steak, cook him steak once a week, and all of a sudden he'd be like, "Wow, I feel like I can remember all this stuff. Oh yeah, I remember your name, Matt, Scott, John." Yeah, he'll do that. He'll call me all three of the brothers' names, all two of them.
Grind it up in some chunky applesauce and add cinnamon. Cinnamon is great with lion's mane.
Well, you find a way to integrate it into a Twinkie or a can of Pepsi, and I'm good to go. Yeah, no, I know.
I find that so interesting that you say it's good with cinnamon, because I hear so many people talking about it tasting like crab, and I'm like, I don't really see that unless you've hit it with a crap ton of Old Bay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can flavor it like crab, but inherently I've never have picked that up.
Yeah.
So I actually was saying cinnamon because, and I don't know if you know this, but cinnamon does wonderful things for the brain and for memory as well, and cognition.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. So if you're taking, so like we've all heard of the Stamets stack. So my stack would be something probably a little more exotic than just a cubensis, and would also include cinnamon and lion's mane instead of the niacin, which flushes you. That would be the Sarah stack.
There you go. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think we really need to dive into what's in these things, you know, and start figuring out which alkaloids and which I don't know, whatever oids else are in there, because you know, like cannabis, we have cannabinoids, and we also have our terpenes. You know, I imagine there's similar supplementary things within the mushrooms that are helping us to achieve these feelings, and sure would be nice to get some definition on what's what, you know, instead of just who's got the most potent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's we're about at the point now where we could talk about your giveaway, or our
Oh, I forgot
raffle.
about it. How could I
So
forget?
I'll go into it a little bit, and you can gather yourself. I just hopped in on this raffle here with Seraphim. It wasn't my idea. I just kind of helped out. But Dirty South was a member of the exotic family, which I'm a member of, and he's a good person, and his son deserves to have some good times in life despite losing his father. So Seraphim took it upon herself to get a nice charity raffle going. And there's some great prizes that she donated. I donated a few little things. I think I'll let you go into the details because there's more than just you and I in it. So go ahead and tell these fine folks what it's all about.
Well, yes, okay. So had an idea for a raffle to support the education of, you know, Dirty South Mycology's son Axel, who's very, very young. So I got a microscope. Philly Golden Teacher bought a pressure cooker, and then I had been thinking about buying a new laminar flow hood, one that was more commercial, like a clean room laminar, but I had just bought this one like a month and a half ago. So I was like, let's put it in the raffle. So Mush Cold, Mycology Simplified, U tree digs, My 3DCO, Never to Mush Mycology, and Southwest Shroomery. And then also 92nd was involved. We all got together, and then we just put together this like amazing, it's like front to back, it's everything you need. Petri dishes, you know, specimens, You got your flow hood, tubs. There's tubs, rain. I mean, it's the full journey.
Yeah, pretty darn awesome.
So
These folks all got a chance to get the lab of their dreams, so to speak. So I
yeah,
really can't wait to see the reactions of the folks that did win and
wouldn't it be cool
do
to see
well.
that? But yeah. So we just did $30 a person, up to 3 entries per person, and we were able to raise, I believe it was $3,150, which is
Nice.
great. So we've almost doubled what they raised on GoFundMe. So we're going to be able to add that on. I'm going to be donating that. I'm just waiting for it to clear Venmo tomorrow, I think. But so the first prize wins everything, the grand prize. And then there were 4 other prizes where you won like a genetics set, a smaller genetic set. But prize 1, he gets it all. Well, I don't want to assume their gender, but
Right.
I will say that the order number was 3550. That's all I'm going to say at this point until I can speak with this person and verify, for Instagram or whatever, what they want to be called, initials, location, if that's okay. But 3550, you really did. You won it all. And I will be working on,
Congratulations.
yay, I'm going to ship, I will be shipping this stuff to you on Friday.
That's going to be
Like,
pretty darn awesome.
it's done. And then we had our 4 runners up were order 3575, 3589, 3597, and 3591. So
Excellent.
congratulations, you
Congratulations,
guys.
everyone. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
just want to thank, I'm sorry.
Nope, go right ahead. Keep going.
I just really want to thank the community for supporting this. It's such a good cause, and to thank all the vendors who helped. I could not have done this alone. I really couldn't have. I was lost. You helped me a lot.
Well, I'm glad to be able to have the experience to help. There's a lot of things that folks have done here that I've leaned on their experience, so I'm happy to be able to return the favor.
Love it.
All
I
right. So
love it.
what are the runners up end up with? They get kind of like a mini care
So
package.
it is. I knew you were going to quiz me on that. So I know it's a Natalensis print. It's Celeste cyanescens. I think there's a jungle jack or jungle strain. They're
Yeah, I
getting
don't know.
some
I'm not
genetics
familiar with
from
the
me.
river.
It's genetics. It's genetics and some merchandise.
Nice.
Um, I mean, it really was the big prize. That was like, I mean, so they're getting, the big prize gets all of those genetics as well, but then they
Yeah.
also get the full
That's
lab.
like the Myco Dream is the grand prize.
It is. It
Yeah.
is like it is. It's a lot. To be able to walk into and just have that set up from day one, I don't
Yeah.
know. Although I kind of feel like everybody should just start out with like Uncle Ben's tech, a bucket, and couloir and a tub, and that's it. If you can master that, then you start like that's how I did it, and I have no regrets. I learned so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that old saying that nobody really understands anymore. There's 100 ways to skin a cat. We don't know why that ever came. Well, I'm sure somebody knows why. We don't care why it came about. Uh, but the point is, I think that at the beginning of folks' Myco journey, that is a key ingredient is success.
Mhm.
Whatever form that takes, if that's uh, taking some cheap Uncle Ben's and getting it, maybe 1 in 5 to fruit or all 5 to fruit. Doesn't matter. You get success. You get something under your belt to really show you that it's possible. And I'll often encourage people that are trying to dive into agar that hey, there's a lot more to it than just buying the plates and making a little transfer. You need a whole bunch of more information. You need some real clean work. You need to make sure you have this knowledge. And often I'll send people to an easier way to start. Whether it's an all-in-one bag, which we don't love, but we don't hate. They're doing pretty well these days. But uh, it's all about that skipping the hesitation or the wall. A lot of people will hit that wall and quit. So definitely finding that success is key.
Yes, and I feel like if you want guaranteed success, that agar is, you have to do agar. You can trust that if you have a good vendor, and like I triple test everything, and I look under the microscope. But sometimes mycelium just quits in the syringe. It's like, no, we don't like how hot it is, we don't like how cold it is, and it just stops being connected and just goes. And if you're using agar, you're going to know, you're going to know that your specimen's healthy before you go waste money on grain or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had too many failures with liquid culture myself to trust anything but what I can see in front of me. I think that I would trust other people's liquid culture, but in my own experience, I've seen too much failure to rely on,
Yeah,
whatever 25-pound bags being inoculated and potentially going bad.
that's just crazy. Yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like there are some things you can do with liquid culture if you're a vendor to be more proactive about that. Like sometimes I think that as vendors we will let a sample colonize too much before we syringe it up and offer it. When what I do is I do it earlier than that, like about probably 10 days sooner than anyone else would, because it's going to keep growing in that syringe, and you've got to sell it. It's got to go through shipping. And
Yeah,
then maybe they don't have everything they need. They need another week to get their setup. By then, it might have run out of air. Just said, screw this, no more nutrition. It's just done. So I try to send mine, like they can be used now, but they'll still be good in a month or even 6 weeks. Another,
right.
if you put them in the refrigerator longer. So yeah, liquid culture is tricky.
I definitely see a distinction between gourmet and active, though. Like gourmets, they've been selling liquid culture for I don't know how long 10, 15, 20 years. And it seems like it's easy, and I think that that's why folks get backed into trying to do it with actives. And for some reason, actives just, they're not as friendly with it.
Mm-mm. I don't know. Maybe I would love to know what your thoughts are on this, Andrew. So I feel like, with the exception of, like, I don't want to name drop, but Southwest Shrimmery, everything I've ever gotten from him was clean. But I haven't bought a lot of gourmet genetics. But the other three times I did, they were always contaminated. And I feel like if somebody is selling both cubensis and gourmet, I feel like you kind of can't trust their gourmet because it's not their focus. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I there's never really been anybody that I've gotten gourmet from that does both. Like most of them are just gourmet or forage centric, because I do have some people that even get mycorrhizal species and put them on cultures. But I don't know. Liquid culture for me, it's always kind of been a crapshoot when it comes to anything less than gourmet. When I was in that world, gourmet, I've pretty much, for the most part, gotten from about three people. So it's it's kind of I don't know. I've never compared it directly. Um, Mycelium Emporium is great for gourmet. If anybody ever
Mhm.
wants to get into them, Lenny's amazing. He does good work. Um, but I don't know. I haven't bought from like the same person, if that makes sense, too much.
Yeah. No, I got it. I got it. Totally get it. Sorry, I have an itch here. I'm not. Look. Oh my god,
Not putting on a
I
fake
look like
mustache.
Hitler. No.
Right, I just got rid of mine. I had some stubble there from last few days playing in the woods.
I'm so envious. I'm gonna go play in the woods today.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
was
do
too
you have
cold. We
woods?
had snow. I think I've shown you my backyard before. I live in a literal sanctuary. There's a lake behind my house,
Awesome.
trees, and all the animals. But it's there's been snow on the ground since Halloween, so I haven't been able to just like stand on the ground. Actually, I did yesterday anyway on the snow. That was kind of hard, but I have to get my grounding in every day. Like I like to spend a little bit of time every day with my feet on the ground. I
Nice.
don't know how that's going to work for me in a month when we've got like feet of snow, but
Right.
maybe I'll wear
Yeah.
magnets or something.
Do you have a basement with a dirt floor?
You're so smart. I do. And you know what? It's actually cool because I live in, it's like kind of a bi-level, like a with a walkout. So it's built on a hill. So that room, the dirt is actually like over your head.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah,
like
there
a
you go.
tomb of grounding. Thank you, man. Like
There you go.
really, I've got my own grounding tomb here. Maybe
Now I
I'll
just
sleep
need to
in there
figure
at
out my
night.
lab. I've been having this problem now where I pull the plastic off of the petri dishes and it causes static to build up. And so I'll be like, I'll be reaching in between the piles of plates, and the hair on my arm will raise up straight. Now, whether or not it's the hair is actually touching it or whatnot, I don't know. But it's very annoying, and it makes me think that if I have any statically charged contamination on me, it's going to zip right over to that thing. So I need to ground myself in the lab.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can definitely get like little clips that clip onto gloves or anything, something like that. Because talking about being a country boy, you have to wear a clip when you are pumping gas into your dirt bike, because if there's any kind of
Oh,
spark, like if you get high octane fuel,
Yeah.
if there's any kind of spark, it can blow you up.
oh yeah.
Wow. So that's a thing. You're gonna have to send that to me. I'm spiritually very sensitive. Without being like weird. I am. Like I really if I walk into a room and somebody's not doing well, like I feel it really strongly. So it's really important for me to stay grounded. Like I really spend a lot of time on it. So yeah, you let me know. I'll buy it. Whatever I need.
Definitely. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to try it out too. We'll have to get that link from you and
Yeah.
see if we can find that. It's funny you say that though with the dirt bike thing.
I can't believe
The
that.
time of year is hunting season, so there's a lot of folks out on quads and on these side by sides. And I won't name names, but they know who they are. I had some friends growing up that weren't the most intelligent in this manner, and they were out at night, one of these cold nights like this. And I'm going to fill my tank up. Who's got a flashlight? Nobody. I've got a lighter.
Oh.
Yeah, so they decided to fill the tank and hold the lighter over it to look in there, and they just, of course, got on fire instantly. And their
Oh,
argument then was, well, you just don't know until you see it. Like, pretty sure I know, bud. Pretty sure the most flammable thing we ever see on a day to
Well,
day basis.
I gotta
you
light
kind
my
of had me.
incense.
You had me worried for a minute because you got like halfway through that story, and I was like, "Please don't let this be about me. Please don't let this be about me."
No, if you've told me stories of that nature, I don't recall.
Not quite that.
Wow.
But they all survived. They didn't burn down the
I'm
forest,
glad.
fortunately. They were in a desert with very few trees. And the one person that caught on fire, his instinct was to stop, drop, and roll. So that worked quite well.
That's good, at least. But wow. I knew somebody when I was younger who a male who used the bathroom on an electric fence and he was disabled for life because of
Oh,
it.
wow.
Like
That's
he was
not
slower
as
in the
hard as I thought.
mind and he was like walked like an elderly person. I mean, just this one, like, I think I'll pee on this electric fence, like when
All
he was
right.
15. Like,
Yeah, I didn't think it
I
would
to
do
me,
that.
no, I mean
Yeah,
it
me
did.
neither.
It did. Because the I guess if I'm remembering, because this was somebody I knew like 30 years ago, um, the stream was the problem because it created a contact point.
Right. Yeah, it was probably a cattle fence. Cattle fence are run pretty damn hot.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but like he was permanently disabled from it, and I doubt he unfortunately lived much beyond when I knew him. I think I moved out of state when I was 18, 19. It was when I lived in Texas, and he was like 25, and he already wasn't doing well. Like just those little things you do as a teenager, it's hard to believe how,
Right.
how that shit can happen. It's just like not fair.
Well, and a lot of it too, it builds up in our system. Like, especially if we're doing things like drugs as teenagers, that we think, oh, well, nothing will happen. We're just breathing this thing in here, causes long-term damage. And often we don't know
Yeah.
what caused it. It's just later in life, all of a sudden you're like, well, I can't remember this person's name that I've known for 20 years. And I don't know where I just put my keys I set down 2 minutes ago. But those things do catch up to us for sure.
Yeah, they do. And then I also wonder like about the effect of, and I'm so all about the psychedelics, but I wonder like on an unformed brain, like, a
Mhm.
younger, like not fully mature brain, like, is this healthy?
Right.
Is this healthy? I think that we need more science, more research on that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the next phase really, because right now we've got active experimenting going on where there are youths taking microdoses, kids using them instead of the SSRIs and the nasty
Mm.
drugs out there. So
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find out, but it's gonna kind of be like everything else. It's a live trial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trial by fire. Yeah. I feel like in terms of like heroic dosing, I feel like I waiting until I was in my 40s. I feel like that was the best time, even though like I wasn't really all the way woken up the rest of my life. Um, I was really firm and knowing who I was, and being attached to my version of this reality. And I feel like when you're younger, you're not mentally quite stable, maybe enough. Some people, not all people,
Right.
some people. So I think
Definitely not as
microdosing's great, but
confident. Like we
yeah,
don't.
it was a confidence thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to know who you are, because
Yeah.
you get into that situation and things that you keep in your mind preventing you from seeing truths start dissolving, and it can be unnerving. You're like, well, who am I really? If
Hmm.
those things were lies I told myself, what else is different? But it's a good thing. The mushrooms,
Yeah.
they show us the way, and they showed me the way to Mr. Andrew here. We became fast friends a year or two ago, and here we
Right.
are today interviewing another new friend who I have no doubt will stick around and become good friends. But we
Hmm.
have reached the end of our show, so I will say thank you for being here, everyone. And I think we had a wonderful conversation. Congratulations to the winners. And Miss Seraphim, do you have any last words?
No, love you, Matt. So good to meet you, Andrew. Love you now too. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you.
Bye.